Welcome to Every Child Belongs. I'm Kim Botto, an adoptive mom, grandma, and advocate for kids and teens with disabilities, as well as a longtime leader of kids and student ministries. In this show, we explore how we can create spaces where every child feels heard and valued, whether neurodivergent, differently abled, or they've experienced trauma. Every child belongs. We'll hear from educators, parents, professionals, and more, finding practical ideas that help build a compassionate and supportive world for every child. Let's get started. Today, I got my buddy, my pal, my sister friend, Meredith Shuman with me. Meredith, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Kim. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. And I just like having long conversations with Meredith. So Meredith has over 28 years of experience. She served as a therapist. She's a trauma-informed trainer. She's a mom. She's got her master's in social work. She's also a TBRI practitioner, which I can vouch for because I did it with you. She also is married to Dan, who's a global health physician. They have lived in a whole bunch of places: Texas, Louisiana, Hawaii, Mexico, and now she's in beautiful Colorado. And Meredith is the founder of James Trail, which I love what it says on your website, Meredith. It says, "We walk the trail with families and organizations by providing trauma-informed consulting, training, and follow-up," which that is what you do. And then you're also, another reason that we have bonded is Meredith is an adoptive mom, as I am. She also has 5 children, as I do, and 4 of her kids are adopted. Meredith, I'm sure I left something else. What do you want people to know about you that I didn't say?
Oh, that's plenty. That's plenty. That's more than enough for one life.
It is. Yeah, you have had a very interesting life.
Well, and I love when our paths have crossed, and I meet amazing people like yourself, and, we kind of knew each other, but then can you trauma bond at a trauma conference?
I think you
Is that a
can,
thing?
because I think we did. Because, well, but I think that's the thing. One of the things we talk about on this podcast is the importance of having a community around you, and it really helps to have people that understand what you're going through.
Totally.
Or when we spent a week together in California, there was a point where I saw you out in the atrium, and I just knew. Like, the look on your face, like, I just knew. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important. And we can tell each other all kinds of really hard stuff, and we're not shocked, and we're not looking to blame anybody. It's just trauma. Trauma is hard. And so, you know what? Talking about trauma, what do you wish more people knew about trauma?
Gosh, I wish that I mean, we could spend 4 hours just talking about that,
Yeah,
but
we could.
and not what I want people to know, but just what there is out there to know, and, I think what you just pointed out was a really precious moment in our lives when we, really connected, and it's that formation of community that was really powerful for you and me. And so I would
Mhm.
love the entire world to really understand, know who their people are, who is their community, who is in their community. And these are people that are emotionally safe, not perfect people. We're all on planet Earth, but you know, people who create felt you're so good at that, Kim, creating felt safety for the people that you're in community with.
Mm.
And so we could be laughing, we could be crying, we could be, talking about hard things, we could get mad, but there's like an emotional safety there. And I think sometimes, of course, we need community that's right, in person, like in the actual community where we live. But, like you, like we don't live in the same town or city or state, but whenever we see each other at conferences or different events and stuff, it's just like, hey, we know what we know,
That's right.
and
That's
it's a
right.
beautiful thing. And so I am so honored and blessed
It
to
is.
call you as a part of my community, because it's really unique and special and precious, and that's what I would love for the world to know and to have, is that sense of community. And I know that for many, that is the church.
Mhm. And yes, for many it is, but for some, it's not.
Right.
And why do you think that is?
Well, going back to what it is to create a sense of felt safety, I think a lot of folks don't feel safe, emotionally safe at church. And there's 1,000 reasons for that. And I'm definitely a part of the church, so I'm not
Mhm.
wagging a finger at anybody.
Right.
But I know for families who have, kids that have unique needs, um, neurodivergent, specialized needs, for kids that maybe there's not even a diagnosis, but there's just some social challenges. For many of those families and the parents and caregivers of those kids, wow, like finding community at church is even more important and even harder to achieve, in my estimation. But you are the expert, so you could say more about that.
Yeah, but I want you to talk today, so I won't. Yeah. Follow me, people, and I will tell you how the church can be better informing communities. Um,
Absolutely.
Meredith, you love the Bible. I love the Bible. And I know you like to look at people in the Bible through a trauma informed lens. What does that tell people? What does that even mean? And what do you see when you do that?
Yeah, it's been a really fun journey for me to really unpack some of the folks in the Bible that we think about as Bible characters, but actually, if we believe what the Bible says, they were people.
Yeah, they were.
They're not just characters, like on a felt,
Right.
screen like we had growing up. Like they were actually people. And so, all of them had strengths and weaknesses and successes and maybe some failures, or what we would consider failures. And so when we think about people like Moses, for example, if we look at Moses,
Mm-hmm.
and this is one of the things we like to workshop and talk about, our workshops with James Strell, when we're working in faith-based spaces, we like to talk about Moses and Gideon and some others. But when you look at Moses, you ask people like, when you think of Moses, what do you think of? Right? Most people think,
The big stuff, parting the Red Sea.
yeah, the Red Sea and the Ten Commandments and leading the people through the desert and blah, 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 those things. But we forget that he was literally born into very, very severe traumatic situations. His, biological mother had to hide him. She was led by the Lord to offer him up. I can't even imagine
Right.
the challenge that would have been. And then she had to co-parent him, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she's
Right.
the nurse for him, nursing him. And then, there's Pharaoh's daughter who's like this adopted mom. And I don't know about you, but having two moms is not always easy. So,
Right.
like
It's
just
not.
being raised in that situation. And then we understand he was maybe 30, 40. He murdered someone. He's a murderer and had to flee, not just because he was afraid, because Pharaoh, who was his grandfather, was trying to kill him, but also because he was not accepted by the people that he was trying to seek acceptance from with that action. So, and the short story, the short version is he goes away, which can you imagine the trauma of his mother in that moment? Like
Right.
he goes away,
Right.
he saves a herd. The shepherd says, "Hey, thanks. Here's my daughter to say thank you," which is culturally not what we would do today. But
Right.
so he gets married, has some kids, and we would look at that and say, "Look at you, Moses. You're like successful now. Like you've got a job, you got a family, you're good to go." Meanwhile, God is saying, we haven't even gotten started yet. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
so much that's about to happen in Moses's life. And so if God can take someone who is a murderer, who was raised in such a traumatic background and use him for such glory, for such, glory of God, like then he can use me, then he can use any of us.
Yeah, you can.
We look at Gideon as well. I think a lot of us as Christians, we really judge him. We judge Gideon, right? We say, oh, well, he needed more faith. He needed more faith. Why did he put that fleece out? Like if he had more faith, he wouldn't have put the fleece out. And I really believe as I study, Judges 6 through 8, what I find is that it takes faith to put the fleece out.
Mm,
It takes faith to ask the questions of God, like, okay, but are you really there? Okay, but are you really hearing me? Okay, am I hearing you? Am I understanding what you're actually asking me to do? And there were so many places before the whole fleece thing where Gideon is in absolute anxiety. You can see it.
right.
And in those moments, God is patient with him. There's even a moment where Gideon says, "Oh my goodness, I'm talking to God. Could you just stay right there, God? Just stay right there. I got to go build an altar and just hang on." You know what God said? Okay. I think once
Mhm.
once we really start thinking about these folks in the Bible as real people who experienced really hard things, who had real emotions, then we can give ourselves more grace.
Right.
We can give more grace to the people around us, to our kids, to others in our church. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You're right. We view Moses as the mountaintop experiences, and we forget about everything that happened prior to that. So, switching gears a little, Meredith, you travel a ton. You are always off to all these different countries, and you do a lot of training on trauma-informed practices. You get to really know people there. You're not just flying in and doing a training and coming out. You build relationships with people in often really remote places. Are there practices that you have seen or things about the culture in these different countries that you wish that we could bring back to America?
Yes, absolutely. We have so much to learn from our global sisters and brothers. We
Mhm.
really, really do. I'm so glad you're asking this. I think as, you know, we at James Trail, as we are, to back up, connecting with churches here in the States,
Right.
there are churches that really get it and understand trauma and its impact. There are churches, but I would say they are few. And I don't know, maybe you agree with me on that.
I do agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
So I think what I see different from our brothers and sisters abroad is there is like no hesitation. These folks are like raising their hand saying, "We have experienced trauma. Like we know we have. We're not in any denial about it. And we're asking for resources. And we want to come alongside other people in other global communities to form these networks. Like they are like we know our church has trauma. We know individually we have it. We know we have it as families, and we're ready to ask for resources. I would say, in contrast, there's a lot of churches here in the States, they're like, "No, I think we're good." And what they're not
Yeah.
realizing is really the pulse of what is happening in American culture today is so traumatic. I mean, and I think sometimes our churches here in the States define trauma as like this, like it's a very closed definition of what trauma is.
Mhm.
And for us at James Trail, trauma is like anything that has that kind of impact on your life where it's impacting your mental health. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of, I would say, some of the church leadership are not always in connection and like with their finger on the pulse of really what's affecting the mental health of the folks that attend.
Yeah. Really what you're saying is so in other countries, they're aware and acknowledging the hard stuff that they've been through, so they're vulnerable. And then they're also curious about other people and how they can better support them. Is that would that be an accurate representation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a global mindset, I think, for many. I can't even tell you how many of our global partners have wished me a happy Thanksgiving this year. I'm like,
You don't
I'm
celebrate
so
Thanksgiving?
impressed. Yeah, you don't
Right.
celebrate Thanksgiving. Like, I'm so impressed that you would think about that and wish that for me. That just tells me how outwardly mindset what their outward mindset is. And I just think that's beautiful. And I want to be more like that.
I didn't even when you said that, about Thanksgiving, I thought, "Oh, that's sweet. They know what you're doing," and so but no, it is a whole mindset of they're thinking of others' interests and needs and yeah. See, you're a much deeper thinker than I am, Meredith. This is awesome.
That's not
It's
true at
always the
all.
case in our conversations. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Not
Um,
at all.
one thing as we talk, you love the outdoors. Now, you may be listening thinking, I love the outdoors. There's nobody that loves the outdoors more than Meredith Shuman. And whenever I go on a really pretty hike, I always send her a picture. But you do trainings on how nature is a powerful tool for calming and regulation, especially for kids who experience trauma. So tell us, why is that the case? And how might we use the great outdoors to help people heal?
Oh my goodness, I love talking about
I
this.
know you
I'm
do.
so glad you're bringing this up, because it's like it's one of those things that we instinctively know this when we step outside. We can feel something happening, but we can't always put our finger on it. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing is that now there is so much science to prove what instinctively we already know. And so it's so much joy. Part of why I love this is there's so much joy for me in seeing like the science of what we already know and then adding that this is God's creation and he made it for us and he made it for us to enjoy and appreciate and heal in, you know? And so yeah, so the power of the outdoors of the healing of trauma is the outdoors is such a powerful tool in our tool belt, and it's free,
Yes, it is.
unless you're paying for a coat or something, it's
Yeah.
like right now.
Right, right.
But, it is a free resource, and I do live in a cold climate, and it just snowed last night, but I am still gonna try to get outside, and once I get my body moving, then I'll warm up, and so that's my encouragement for all of us that are heading into winter. But yeah, there are things that are happening in our senses whenever we step outside. There is something called fractals, and that is how our like light hits our environment and then our hits our vision and our brain interprets it. And so a great example of this is if you watch the movie Walter Mitty, Secret Life of Walter Mitty,
Mhm.
is that all of the early parts of the movie, everything is very angular. Everything in our homes and our businesses and buildings is very like straight lines and perpendicular and parallel.
Mhm.
But when you step out into nature, the visions are very chaotic. And there's pine needles going every direction, and there's leaves on the ground, and there's, sticks somewhere, or there's like debris, like dirt over in a corner. Like all of that sort of chaotic fractal does something to our brains in a way that is actually calming. So you wouldn't think that chaos would be calming, but somehow that's how we were wired, maybe by God. And
Yeah. Right.
and that is how we can receive it. So that's just sight. Then you look at smells. There's science that proves that there's like this there's aerosols that the trees are emitting and bushes are emitting
Mhm.
that maybe our noses can't even detect, but as they are coming, and sometimes we can smell it. It has an impact on our brain and on our mental health. They say that there's this whole nature pyramid about all this research and science that's gone into, daily exposes to nature, reduces, increases our attention ability and reduces our stress load. And weekly exposes to nature does this, and monthly does this, and big, and all of that kind of stuff gets me really excited because all through scripture, God says, behold the glory of my creation. He made, the day and the night and the animals and the trees and he said it was good. He said it was good. And so I know some of us are like, Meredith, that's crazy. You can enjoy Colorado all day long, but like I live in Kansas and it's just brown. And I have also lived in Kansas, I will say, and
You have.
I would say that one of the most beautiful things in a place like Kansas is the sky. Just the sky, what the beautiful things that God creates in the sky and the horizon and the sunsets. So my point is that there's such a connection in the way that the outdoors impacts our mental health, and it is literally the provision of the Lord for our lives. And so that's why I get excited about talking about it.
And as you said, you don't have to live in the mountains of Colorado to experience it. The smells, the way what you call fractals? I've never heard that
Yeah, I
before.
know.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good. That doesn't make any difference where you are.
correct.
Science proves it will have a positive impact on our body.
Yes. Yes, there's like a sense of wonder sometimes that we miss as we grow up and become adults. I
Mhm.
mean, when's the last time we took a leaf off of a tree or off the ground and we just like really like looked at it, really pulled it apart, started looking at like, well, the front is different than the back and the veins are like, when's the last time we
Mhm.
really had a sense of wonder about what is in creation? And that's just nature. Like, what about animals and, you know, doing something with someone outside, like that increases the mental health, you know, encouragement and impact even more when you're doing something like that outside with someone.
So, Meredith, you're outside a ton. Do you still have that sense of wonder when you're hiking the trails? And I mean, I'm wondering if the more you're outside, it actually increases your sense of wonder rather than decreases it.
That's a great question. I would say there are trails and like if I'm just here near my house that sometimes I know I'm getting the impact, but because I've done this one trail so many times, I really have to stop and be like, okay, Meredith, just
Mm,
be present. Because my brain is thinking about work or family or a thousand things.
right.
And I have to just like pull it to the present and really look at the trees and smell and like listen to the leaves rustling. And I have to like pause. I would say, but yes, there are, certainly if I'm doing something new or seeing something in a new environment, then my sense of wonder is just even more increased.
Mhm.
And then that makes me want to try the next new trail and the next, adventure. So
Right.
yes, yes and no, I would say.
Yeah, I just wondered. I was wondering. So as we look at our church environments, they're a lot of times inside. How can we learn from the things in nature that calm us and bring some of those elements inside? I'm not talking about digging up a pine tree and bringing it inside, but which that would be kind of fun though. Yeah, what can we do in our environments?
I think that I've done a lot of, I've been a teacher for kids and, in kid environments and VBS and Sunday school and all that for many years. But I would say one of the things that could be challenging is that when we take kids outside, we as the teacher, we're losing an element of control.
Mm,
And I think that can be really difficult because we can control an indoor environment better than we can an outdoor. We can control the kids and where they're running off to and whatever in an indoor environment. That is for sure. I would also say that when we take a risk and with the right kids in the right situation and the right support, all of that stuff,
right.
then what we might find is that it actually brings better behavior from the kids when we step outside. I read a quote that I loved, and I hope I can get it right. It's something about we won't have kids bouncing off the walls if we take away the walls.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that good? I
That's
did.
good.
I need to look up the
That's good.
origin of that quote, but I just there sometimes, not all the time, not all the kids, but not all situations, but sometimes we take kids outside, and there is an element of calming for them, and because they're having a sense of wonder and they're excited about whatever they're doing next.
Mhm.
Think about when we were kids, if a teacher ever said, "Okay, we're gonna read the book outside today," we were always like,
Oh,
"Yes, that's so
yes.
awesome."
Yes. Mhm.
And so I advocate for folks to take classrooms outside when appropriate. There is also a lot of things we can do to bring the outdoors in,
Mhm.
and I am a terrible plant mom or caregiver, whatever.
Oh.
I'm great with kids and dogs, but plants I'm not so good with. But I do believe in like bringing plants and natural, you know, elements inside because it does have some of the same effects. There's science to
Mhm.
prove that as well. But also, how can we bring lessons about the outdoors inside to kids?
Mhm.
Just like we want to talk about missionaries or we want to talk about, Apostle John or whatever. Like, how can we bring in our own house plant and have a lesson just about the plant? Guys, I'm going to give you all a leaf. I want you to flip it over. I want you to look at it. We're
Mm.
going to understand this is something God made. This is not, I did not make this. I can put like water in it and make it grow, but like God is the one that made the seed and made this plant. And so like that, there are lessons about the outdoors, and that kind of thing can be really powerful for kids as well.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna definitely share this podcast with my husband because he has now said, if any plants come in, one has to go out before any more. Because I do love houseplants. But it's interesting to think of it might actually be fulfilling some of the things that we get when we're outside. As we continue today's episode, I wanted to let you know that if you're looking for more resources, strategies, and encouragement for making sure every child belongs, head over to our website at kimbotto.com. Sign up for the newsletter to receive exclusive content and insider info on future episodes. Don't miss out. Go to kimbotto.com and join today. Meredith, you work in a lot of medical environments and you work with medical personnel. And being in the hospital, going into a clinic is extremely stressful for kids, especially for kids who have experienced trauma. So, as caregivers, what should we know and what are some tips and strategies for us to make the experience less difficult for our kids?
I really think that a lot of parents and caregivers do a lot of that instinctively. Like they know walking into a doctor's office that this place is probably not trauma informed or certainly not as informed about my kid and their challenges as I am as the caregiver or parent. And so I think a lot of parents step in and are ready, to educate the physician, the provider, the nurses. But some of us have just had like a really crappy day or a really challenging season. And so we just kind of are doing one thing to the next thing to the next thing. I know the doctor's appointment and blah, blah, blah. And we show up and then the staff doesn't interact with our kid in the way that we needed them to or wanted them to. And so then that brings frustration to us. And so
Right.
I I always advocate for like even taking 90 seconds in the car or 90 seconds before we get in the car to just, for me as a caregiver or parent, to just breathe, to just do something that is regulating, maybe listening to like something that's really calming and joyful for me in the car ride on the way over, to just remind myself to be really present with that healthcare provider and the nursing staff, even the front desk.
Mhm.
And the advocacy for my child can begin from the moment we cross the threshold, you know?
Mhm.
Um, was was there a ramp? Was there a way in? Was it convenient? Was it like, a mile that way to get to the ramp? You know, and that's the kind of advocacy that we can have in the big picture, and we haven't even barely crossed the threshold. Is the waiting area gonna work for me? And if it's crowded and I know that my kid is really sensitive to noise, then I might go to the front desk and say, "Hey, I just want you to know we're here, but this environment is gonna be overstimulating for my kiddo, so we're gonna step in the
Mhm.
hallway. Would you just come get me
Yeah.
when we're ready?" That kind of thing.
Right.
And that front desk should accommodate 100%. If they don't, that's a bad sign, right?
That's right. Switch doctors.
Yeah. And then, waiting for a really long time, gosh, that's so hard on our kiddos sometimes.
Mhm.
I mean, all of
Mhm.
those kinds of things. We can come at it complaining or we can come at it advocating, right?
Mhm.
And I'm always an advocate of like face to face. And so maybe you have the visit, but there's a couple things that you notice as you're leaving. Say, hey, I just have a couple things I'd love to request for our next visit, and I really appreciate all that you guys are doing. But you know what? If maybe we could, if you could make sure and schedule us, or we'll try to schedule early in the day where there's less delay between when
Mhm.
we arrive and when my kiddo's appointment is, like that would really, really help kids like mine and
Yeah.
call it a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I
Better.
li advocate,
Yeah, yeah.
advocate.
Better than I prefer that better than like leaving a review on Google that says,
Right.
"Well,
That
this doctor's
typically
office sucked, and here's why,"
that's that
like
typically does not instigate change.
yeah, yeah.
Google reviews do not do that. As you're talking about it, it made me think, I took my granddaughter to the doctor's office about a year ago, and she was probably gonna have to have a shot because we thought she had strep, which she did. And I think one thing is just acknowledging their discomfort, which I tell people that all the time. But she was super scared. She was scared of the sticky things,
Hmm.
which was a shot. And I kept telling her, "You're so brave. You're so strong." And finally, she turned to me and she said, "Gigi, I am not brave. I am not strong. Hold my hand and stay here." I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, okay. Yeah." I was trying to convince her of something that she didn't feel, and words weren't going to change things. But yeah, doctor's offices can be really hard for people. So, Meredith, you're as an adoptive mom, you and I have bonded over that. And we've both talked about sometimes you feel so isolated. You don't feel like you can share your stories because, well, for one, we want to protect our kids' stories. But what would you say to adoptive, foster, or kinship parents, people who are raising kids who experience trauma? What words of encouragement do you have for them? Yeah, how would you want to encourage them?
I think that community is absolutely vital for families like ours. Absolutely vital. I need people who can hear me talk about really hard stories in my family, and they're not judging me.
Mhm.
They're not saying, "Well, have you tried tough love?" Or
Right.
they're not saying, "Maybe you should pray more. You just need more faith." Like stuff like that that feels really I know the intent is good, but like to me that doesn't hit well.
Mm-mm.
I can also hear with whatever they want to share, up to them, but they're, challenging stories. And then that reminds me, gosh, there's other hard stories playing out like right now, like
Mhm.
today. And, it's stuff like we're heading into the holidays. And when I think about community and other adoptive foster families, and I think about the holidays, I think about how hard the holidays are for a lot of us. And I don't mean just little kids, I mean school age, middle school, high school, college. We're in the, adulting kid phase. And
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
the holidays are still hard. Like there's different reasons.
Tell us some reasons that the holidays are hard.
Sometimes the holidays are hard because kids are home from school and it's just the lack of routine is just really difficult for parents, difficult for kids to manage. A lot of us as parents are trying to do all the holiday things, like cooking and like if we celebrate with gifts, then we're trying to make sure all of that is in order. Maybe we have family coming in town, and so our attention is distracted from our kids. And, so I think the lack of routine and the distractions and all of that kind of stuff can be really difficult when they're little and all the way up through high school. It looks different in high school.
Mhm.
I would say in the adulting years, like, how's my relationship with all of my kids? Will they be wanting to come and spend Christmas with us? Are they still at home with me? And I'm thinking about, you know, how lonely they're going to feel because they're living at home and they would love to be more independent. Like there's just a lot of feelings about it. And I think there's some idyllic ways that especially as Americans that we view Christmas. that are not realistic for most of us,
Mhm.
but it does create this longing that we want it to be more idyllic, or we want it to be at least joyful. And then there's Jesus, like celebrating his birth. And so like we're trying to like as parents and caregivers like carry too much of that stuff, and we're just trying to like navigate some of it. And I think the whole season can be really, really challenging in that way.
Yeah, it can be, and especially for, some of our kids who have other families,
Exactly.
that the holidays just bring out those thoughts, and if they were adopted at an older age, they actually have some traditions and memories of holidays
Absolutely.
with their birth families.
Absolutely. And, that calls to mind birthdays. We have 3 December birthdays and 1 early January birthday in our family, and birthdays can be really tough
Yeah.
as well. And so I don't know if this is coming back to your question, but, just having community around for challenging seasons like the holidays, like birthdays, or just a regular Tuesday, is
Mhm.
so, so important because it's the community that's reminding me, oh, Jesus has not ever left me. It's it's the community that reminds me, Meredith, no one's expecting you to be the perfect parent, or if they are, that's tough. Like we're
Yeah.
all doing the best that we can. It's community that reminds me like, "Hey, I'll be at church. I hope to see you there." Because if we sit together, maybe we can like fist bump when like things hit
That's right.
us. You know what I
That's
mean? Like
right. That's right.
it's my community that calls these things to mind, and creates an opportunity for me to feel joy and to feel more peace, in the holidays. Because joy is a choice, right?
Right.
Happiness is what happens in our circumstances, but joy is a decision, and it's a gift. And so that's something that I always try to pray for.
Yeah, and don't you think too the community helps normalize some of the things we're going through, where then we can better understand. Well, you and I have had these conversations like, "Hey, actually, we're pretty great moms and we've got pretty great kids, and there's some really hard stuff going on." And that doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean that they're doing something wrong. And I have found, I think that's why I enjoy talking to you so much, is it makes me realize I just need to continue to take it step by step, rely on the Lord. He's writing their story and my story. And yeah, so what would you say to somebody though who doesn't have community or who feels like they can't share what's going on? What would be a baby step they could do?
Well, a baby step. I have bigger steps,
Okay.
and then maybe we'll get to the baby steps.
No, give me a big step. Maybe that's
Also,
part of the problem. Maybe they need to take a big old
I
step.
don't know, maybe, I don't know. No judgment here, but I would say 2 big steps that could impact, and these are things that I've had to face as well, is, there are some great adoption foster conferences that happen
Yeah.
around
Yep.
the United States in different times of the year. And, the 2 that I'm the most involved in, aside from CAFO, which is more has a global, focus, that's, um
Christian Alliance for
Christian oh my gosh, I
Orphans.
was blanking. Thank you. Christian Alliance for Orphans.
Mhm.
But the 2 that I'm referring to are Replanted and the Reconference. Replanted happens
Yes.
every October in, Chicago area, and the Reconference happens every February in the Kansas City area. And I mean, being in a auditorium or even in a workshop, there's like 7 or 800 people. All of those are families who've adopted foster kinship, and there's so much understanding and
Mhm.
mercy in those
Mhm.
spaces. And
Mhm.
I would recommend that for any adoptive foster kinship parent. Another is that, like, I get it. If you've been to church and you did not feel welcome there, like, I get it. I've lived out some of those stories. And I would say keep looking, keep searching, like, find
Yes.
your people. And you may like go on Sunday morning to some church that is a fit for a Sunday morning, but you may find that there's another church that has like a small group, like a replanted group. They also have replanted small groups,
Yes.
in like hundreds of churches around the United States. Maybe
Mhm.
that's like your Tuesday night jam. And so that's how you actually find the people that you connect with. And so, I mean, those are big steps, but man, have been game changers for me for sure.
Oh, yeah, when I went to Replanted for the first time, they asked me to speak, so I went as a speaker. But, oh my gosh, being around all those adoptive and foster and kinship parents, I was filled up, and I there were things in me that were hurting that I had stuffed down, and it was very yeah, it was an awesome plus it's just fun. I mean, it's just fun being with families. Adoptive, foster, and kinship families are fun. They know how to have a good time. So, Meredith, we are nearing the end of our time, and we like to end with just a couple rapid fire questions, okay?
Yeah,
So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You travel a lot, and you have so many interesting travel stories. What is an interesting travel story that you can share
Oh
on
my
public
gosh.
airwaves?
Whoa. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of one that I can share.
I know, that's what
Um, oh my goodness. Well, here's one. So I I've been to India a couple times, and one time that I went, I was, in a I'll say it like this. I was in a very humble setting, and I was so jazzed to be there and just like taking it all in, and food was being served out of this for a very large group, out of this
Mhm.
large pot or couple of pots. There was like rice, and then there was like a meat dish, right? And with like sauce and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this smells amazing. I can't wait. And so um there's like a large group here, right? But
Mhm.
I'm one of the only like non-locals there. And so I love Indian food. I'm here for it like 100%. And so they're just like dishing it up, boom, boom, boom. And I get my plate and or bowl and I'm like really excited. And so I mean I get my fork and we pray, whatever, and I'm like digging in. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good. And I'm just like throwing it back. And I don't know, maybe 45 seconds in, my eyebrows start to like like on fire. Like
Uh-huh.
I cannot, it's like one of those shows where anyway, I grew up in Texas. I love spicy food.
Spicy, yeah.
This was literally blowing my head off. And I'm looking around, there's children, there's adults. Everyone's just like delicious, loving it, throwing it back, and I'm like, "How are you doing this? Like, how is this not blowing your head off?" And so in that moment, I was just so reminded of, like, pepper that seems really, really normal for some
Uh-huh.
people is
Is not normal for
really not
others.
normal for me.
It's
And
hot.
so, I used to kinda grow up when people are like, "Oh, I don't like spicy food." I used to think, "That's crazy. Spicy food is great." And then I began to get it. Like, no, it literally hurts their mouth.
So there are levels of spice that you cannot tolerate, Meredith. Is that
Yes,
what you're telling us?
clearly. I
Okay,
was, like, so disappointed too because it was so good.
that's good. Okay, what about what's your favorite family tradition?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know if this will air around Christmas, but, um, for me, Christmas is on the brain, and
Mhm.
I would say one of my favorite, we have a lot of Christmas traditions in our house, and one of them
Mhm.
is we always watch, It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve,
Yes.
and then, for us, stockings are a big tradition, and we have kinda legit stockings, like, it's not just candy, like, there's some effort put into it, and so then as they became adults and we aren't doing as many, like, gifts, for each kid,
Mhm.
um, now it's more about stockings, and I kinda love that.
Give me a couple ideas that you put in stockings.
Well, we love a global community. And so one of my favorite stores is called World Market. And it's like a huge store where I live.
Mhm.
And they have all of this like international food and snacks and just
Nice.
weird tchotchkes and ornaments and
Uh-huh.
all this. And so I love to just like get a little bit from different parts of the world and put them in their stockings, and it just gives everybody a taste of the world. And, you know, it's fun.
It's a great idea. That's a great idea. Okay, if you could only eat one food, what would you eat?
Oh my gosh. That's really hard.
You can pick one.
Favorite dessert, lavender creme brulee.
Oh, I've never had that. Okay, this is the last one. Finish this thought. Every child.
Every child is seeking to be loved, and every child needs to be loved. And actually, every child is loved.
That's right. That's good. Thank you, Meredith, and thank you for the work that you do to help create environments where every child is loved. And for those who want to get in touch with you and get in touch with James Trail, what's the best way to do that? Where do they find you?
Well, even before we go there, Kim, you do such a great job of creating safe space for
Oh,
people. And
Meredith.
I'm so thankful to have been a part of this podcast with you. And I'm so thankful that your mission in life is so perfectly attuned to who you are, is
Mm.
to make sure that every child is seen and known and loved, and all the ways that you carry information and content to empower families and churches. So,
Oh, thank
yay,
you.
Kim. Yay, Kim.
Thank you,
I'm
Meredith.
on Team Kim. Um, so yeah, if folks want to get in touch with us, there's a couple of ways. Our website is jamestrail.org. If you're interested in social media, we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at James Trail Global is our handle. And, you're welcome to reach out to us via email as well, contact at jamestrail.org. And yeah, if you attend some of these conferences, you might see Kim and you might see me.
Yeah, and if you see us together, we probably won't be talking to you. We'll be talking to each other. No, we'll talk to you too. No, James Trail has great stuff on social media.
Thank
I
you.
love it's very short and digestible and
Mm,
helpful, practical information. So, Meredith,
thank you.
always a joy. Hopefully, we will be in the same city soon. But thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. And if you want more of Kim on another platform, Kim has been interviewed on the James Trail podcast as well.
Oh,
So
that's right. I have. Yeah. Go
yes, we
go
we
go
need more
listen
of
to that.
Kim in our lives.
Thanks for being such a great encourager, Meredith.
Thank you, Kim, for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Every Child Belongs. If you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to share this with a friend who might need to hear it. Together, we can create a world where every child belongs.